Hello, let's do the New York Times Medium Sudoku for May 22nd, 2024. There's a link in the description if you'd like to try the puzzle yourself using the same Sudoku pad software I do. And I'm going to get started right now. Okay, so for my medium solves, I don't make very many assumptions about how much Sudoku knowledge and experience you have. These are designed to help you boost your knowledge about how to solve classic Sudokus like this. And so as a result, I'm sorry if I'm going over stuff you already know, but there's always new people watching my videos, and I don't want to make too many assumptions. If you want a more streamlined solve where I explain a little bit less, you can watch my hard solves as well, and those also serve as good reminders. So anyway, it's kind of weird that I basically have people graduate out of the medium into the hard, and so the viewership on the medium is lower, but I do feel that these are beneficial. So do let me know in the comments. It's always nice to hear when someone says, yes, this video was helpful for me. Keeps me going. Anyway, so let's go over some terminology, just to make sure we're on the same page about words I say, because there are some words that have specific meanings, and sometimes in different Sudoku communities, different words are used. So it makes sense to go over this. I call these cells. I'm going to use we from now on. We call these cells. There's 81 of them in the grid. They're kind of the foundation of Sudoku, in that we have a 9x9 grid of cells, and each cell will have a digit in it. Some of them are given, like this 1, 5, and 8. Some of them are not yet given, and we have to discover what digit goes in there. Now, the important thing is that there is only going to be one solution to the puzzle, so we're not going to be guessing. This isn't a guessing game, it's a logic game. And we can do a purely logical solve where every time we place a digit, we are 100% logically sure that that is the only digit that we could have put in that cell. And by the end, every cell will be filled with a digit from 1 to 9. All right, but there are additional restrictions in Sudoku. Every row, so a row is just a horizontal line of 9 cells. Every column, a vertical line of 9 cells. And every 3x3 box. These are only the ones that are bold outlined. So you can see like here, this is a 3x3 box. But this is a 3x3 area of cells, but it is not considered a box because it does not have a bold outline around it. There's 9 of those. So there's 9 rows, 9 columns, and 9 boxes in the puzzle. And each one will have the digits 1 through 9 exactly once each. That means not 0 times, not 2 times, etc. So there are 9 cells, and each cell will have one of the digits from 1 to 9, and we will not be repeating any. We won't be omitting any. 9 digits fit into 9 cells. So hopefully that makes sense. And so those are the terms I'll use: row, column, and box. In addition to that, just a couple structures that are useful to talk about. There's bands, which is a row of 3 boxes, and there's stacks, which is a column of 3 boxes. I'm just going to be using those terms. They're a very nice shorthand for those structures. And actually, let's get started by thinking about bands and what do we know about a band? Because the rules don't tell us anything directly, but we can infer certain things. Well, a band is made up of 3 rows. And since it's made up of 3 rows, each row has 1 of each digit. And so 3 rows in total have 3 of each digit. And so every band will have each digit appearing 3 times. And so what does it mean if we know where 2 of those digits are already? We know where the 1 is in 2 out of the 3 places in this band. Well, we've actually narrowed down quite significantly where that third 1 can go, because we know it's not going to repeat in either of these rows. So it's going to end up in this row. But also, we know that the band is made up of 3 boxes, and each box will have 1 of each digit. And so this one is the 1 for this box, and this one is the 1 for this box. So we also need a 1 for this box. So we need the 1 to be the 1 for this row, but also it needs to be the 1 for this box. And now you're kind of seeing how Sudoku rules kind of play into each other here. We end up having to put a 1 into one of these 3 cells. And so the third 1 for this band will be in one of these 3 cells. We don't know exactly which one. It might be here or here or here. We don't know which, and we're not going to be guessing. But that is where we've narrowed it down to. And so that's something that we want to remember for later. And you can try to keep that all in your head, but I don't recommend it. There's a lot. There's 81 cells here. There's 9 of each digit. So my recommendation is to use the corner mark mode in Sudoku Pad and just corner mark that digit into the cells that we've narrowed it down into. More specifically, what we're going to use corner marks for is the list of cells, the exhaustive list of cells that can be that digit within a box. So since these are all in the same box here, this is where 1 can go in this box. And we can prove that a bit more directly because the box does need a 1. The box has every digit. And this one here says don't repeat in this row, and this one here says don't repeat in this row. And so we get the same result, which is good, which is that 1 ends up in one of these 3 cells. And we're going to use the corner marks to designate that. Now we're only going to corner mark if we're down to 2 places in the box. We'll corner mark no matter what. 3 places in the box will only corner mark if they share a row or if they share a column. So in this case, because they share a row, it was safe to corner mark these 3 ones here. All right, so what we want to do is we want to find every digit that appears twice in the band. My recommendation is to compare each box against each other box. So box 1 against box 2, box 1 against box 3, and box 2 against box 3, and look for repeated digits. I recommend starting with the box with the fewest givens. This has 0 givens, so there's nothing to look for. But over here we have the 1 and the 6, so we look for 1 and 6 in the other box, and we found the 1. That was the only repeated digit. Now, before moving on, there's 2 more things I want you to look for. The first thing to look for is if we have a filled box row just being the 3 cells that share a row within a box. So that there's 3 box rows per box, right? So this box row is filled. We know it has 1, 5, and 8. We know exactly which 3 digits go in it. And in fact, we know where they go in it, but importantly, we know which 3 go in. And since we know 1, 5, and 8 go in this row, we're interested in anything in the other rows that aren't in the box that may be affecting this box. So we don't care about empty cells, and we don't care about digits that are already placed in the box, so we don't care about the 1. But the 6 is interesting. Look what the 6 does. The 6 removes 6 from these 3 cells. You know, the 3 and 9 already couldn't be, but we're talking a little bit generically here, just so that I'm not going to utilize any information I don't need to in order to make this point, because we're going to be using this a lot in our puzzles. So this 6 takes 6 out of these 3 cells, and these 3 cells were filled with 1, 5, 8, which are not 6. And it's always going to be not 6, or not whatever digit we're using, because we're specifically looking for digits that aren't in the box yet. And so the result is very similar to these 1s. We end up with a 6 in one of these 3 cells, so we can corner mark that. But in addition to that, we found that through this. We didn't find it through having another 6, which would have been in this box. And in fact, the 6 would have been in one of these 3 cells in order to take it out of these 3. And actually, we will find that that means there is a 6 over here, because we know there's a 6 here, and we know there's a 6 here. And so this row and this box need a 6. It's going to be here. Another way to think about that is the concept of pointing. I like to give multiple ways to think about it, because often when you're fluidly solving, you want as many tools in your belt as possible to achieve the logic in the way that makes most sense to you and will work best in your situation. So in this box, these corner marks have told us that 6 has been reduced to these 3 cells only. And those 3 cells all share the same row. They're all in row 1. So this box will have a 6, and that 6 will be in row 1, which means the rest of row 1 cannot be a 6, because we can't have more than one 6 in row 1. And we know that one of them will be here in one of these 3 cells. Whether this is 6, or this is 6, or this is 6, the result is the same. These cannot be 6. And those are our 3 choices. So these cannot be 6, and this 6 says these can't be 6. So in this box, actually, the 6 is in one of these 3 cells. And importantly, these are not 6 anymore. And that's the power of finding it this way, is you do get that pointing behavior. And so we've restricted where 6 can be in this box, and these corner marks are there to try to remind us of that. Okay, so that is the only filled box row. This isn't filled, right? We don't know what goes here. The last thing to look for before moving on to the next band is a row or a box that have been reduced to 4 or fewer open cells. So in this case, this box has 4 open cells, so that does meet our criteria. The first thing to do is think about what are the digits that are going to end up in these 4 cells. Well, it's going to be the 4 digits that aren't these 5 digits. So it's going to be 2, 4, 6, 7. You want to think about 2, 4, 6, 7 and see how any 2s, 4s, 6s, and 7s affect this box. So we're looking at all the other boxes in the band and in the stack for the digits you just thought about, 2, 4, 6, 7. And any cell that is restricted is going to be useful. The first thing that I want to think about is how this 4 is restricting 4 out of these cells. And so actually the 4 can only go in one of these 2 cells. We can corner mark that, and those are sharing a row, and so that does cause pointing, which means these can't be 4. Now, unfortunately, there's not enough information about 4 in this band to do more with that, but it is useful to have that marked. The other thing that I've noticed is, for example, this cell here, it can't be the 4 or the 6, and we only listed 2, 4, 6, 7 as options. So if it can't be 4, 6, it's down to just 2 or 7. We don't know whether it's going to be a 2 or a 7, but we know it's only going to be one of those two digits. So we're going to use center marks to remember that. And what center marks will always mean is that that cell, this is the list of digits that could end up in this cell. So you can imagine every cell starting, when we start the puzzle, starting with 1 through 9 in every cell. And then as we see that, okay, it can't be 9, it can't be 3, it can't be 6, we're removing that, right? Can't be 2. And so we end up with 4, 5, 7, 8. Now, we're not going to do that to every cell, but you can kind of imagine in your head that every cell kind of has that invisible list of candidates. And when that list gets reduced to 3 or fewer is when we want to expose that and actually write it out. This keeps the puzzle from getting cluttered and also keeps you from having to do a bunch of rote work before you start the puzzle. There are tools that'll do this automatically for you. I feel like it's too much of a crutch. You're not going to learn as much about how to solve Sudoku. It's not going to be as fun. It's basically like solving the Sudoku for you in a lot of puzzles. And then when it doesn't solve it for you, it ends up becoming like a hunt. Like you have to like really scan. You're looking at the wrong things. So I don't recommend using that. I do use red markings. So like if this 7 gets placed here, this 7 turns red. The red markings are not based on the solution to the puzzle. They are simply based on that I put a 7 here. You can see it when I remove it. And it doesn't delete the 7 for me. So I can take my time and look and go, this cell has updated information. And that's why I like to use it. But ultimately, it's your decision to have that option on or off. I like to use it because I don't want to miss trivial deductions when I'm trying to give a walkthrough on less trivial stuff. And if I miss something trivial, then it's a bit frustrating to both myself and the viewer that I wasn't able to give the same teachable moments that I should. Okay, so this has been reduced to 2 or 7, and those center marks are just, we call those candidates. They're the exhaustive list of possible digits that will end up in the solution. Only one of them will prevail by the end, and that will get placed. But for now, it is down to 2 or 7 only. And I said we're going to do that if we're ever down to 3 or fewer. We know this one's not 4 because there's a 4 in the column. So this is down to 2, 6, 7. Now, this one can't be 2, so it's 4, 6, 7. Now, this one can be any of 2, 4, 6, 7. So we are not going to mark that up. We could put 2, 4, 6, 7 here, but that's 4 digits, and it just starts getting really cluttered. There's too much information on the grid, and the information we're adding is not useful, at least not at the moment. So we'll wait, and we'll mark that when it's definitely down to 3 or fewer. You can also choose not to mark things if you think, not yet. I don't want to clutter the grid right now. Let's not mark this. It doesn't seem interesting yet. And you can always come back and mark it if you needed to. And sometimes you end up not needing to. So it's up to you how much you want to mark. But this is my recommendation when starting out, before you get your ideas of what to do. Okay, so I know that was a lot. We've just finished the first band. That's what we wanted to get out of the first band. Nothing else has 4 or fewer. So we're going to do the same thing, but with this band. So the first thing we do is look for repeated digits. So I'm going to start with this 2, 9 here. We look for a 2, there is no 2. We look for a 9, there is a 9 here. So these 9s look into here. And then we look up and down. This is where we kind of leave the band and scan a little bit. We're just looking for 9s though. That's all we need to look for. So we see this 9 and we see this 9. And so actually in this box, there is only one place for 9. And so we can place that. That's called a hidden single. So normally we would like corner mark all of the cells that could be 9, but it was just one cell. And since the box needs a 9, and there's only one cell that can be 9, we can place the 9 as a big digit. And that is our first digit placed. We have all of these other ones still to place, but we're making progress. And so that's called a hidden single. And whenever I use the term hidden, I mean I'm looking at a row, column, or box. I'm looking at the 9 cells in a row, column, or box. And then the word single means that there was only a single cell that met a criteria, in this case where 9 could go. So for the full term, if I wanted to like give full notation on this, I might say that there was a hidden single 9 in box 5. So the keywords are 9 is the digit I placed, box is what I was looking in, and it was box 5 because this is the 5th box. We count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that was the 9. Now we need to compare these two boxes against each other. I'm going to pick this 1, 3, 8. Notice we already took care of the 9, so we don't need to worry about it. There is no 1, but there is a 3, there is no 8. So the 2 3s look into this box. This 3 looks up, and we have another hidden single. It's a hidden single 3. Very handy. Okay, and now we finished comparing the boxes. We don't have to worry about these digits because we already compared against these boxes by looking at the digits in these boxes, right? We did this box against these two, and we did this box against this box. So now we just look for filled box rows. This is a filled box row, so we want to look at these digits. Ignore empty cells, ignore digits that are already placed. 3 is already placed, 9 is already placed, but the 2, 6, and 7 are not. That's huge, right? So let's start with this 2. This 2 looks in, this 2 looks up, and it does put a 2 in one of these two cells. And there's always going to be a pointing follow-up. Remember to do, when you find it this way, remember to do the pointing. So where does the 2 go in this box, right? These point in saying not here. This 2 says not here, and these aren't 2. So actually there's only one place for 2 in the box, and we can place it. Importantly, we noticed there wasn't already a 2 in the box. That's something I feel I should point out. They're not placing a second one. All right. Now we also have this 6 and 7. So the 6 looks in. These aren't 6. There's no 6s up or down here to help. So 6 ends up in one of these two. That points in along with this 6, putting a 6 in here. And so now we repeat that with the 7. The 7 looks in. 7's in one of these two. That 7 points in here along with this 7. We do have a 7 helping a little bit. Puts a 7 in one of these two. Now, there's something that happened here that I want you to try to notice. It's a little bit harder, but it is important if you do see it to use it. So we have corner marked the 6 and the 7 into the same two cells and no other cells in the box. So let's think about the consequences of that. What does it mean that we just did that? Well, in this box, the 6 will be here or it'll be here. Also, the 7 will be here or here. So if I place the 6 here, for example, which is one of the two options, this now has to be the 7 because there's nowhere else for 7. We used up one of the places for 7, so that ends up 7. The only other option is 6 ends up here in the box because there are only the two places for it, in which case the 7 ends up here, right? Or another way to put it is I need 2 cells for 6 and 7. I can't put them both in the same cell. So I need 2 cells for 6 and 7, and these are the 2 cells for them. There's no other cell that can be. So these are the 2 cells for 6, 7. So actually I can center mark that. I can center mark 6, 7. I can get rid of my corner marks if I'd like, which I do. I like to keep things clean because I recognize this as a pair. And the pair does more than what the corner marks will do. And so it's more useful just to have that as a pair. So we know from that because this is 6 or 7 and this is 6 or 7 and they can't be the same digit as each other, one of them will be 6 and one of them will be 7, meaning the rest of the row and the rest of the box is not 6, 7. However, what we found here was not a naked pair. What we found was a hidden pair. Now remember, hidden means we're dealing with the box. And so there was a pair of cells in the box that was, in this case, reduced to 2 digits, right? So that's what a hidden pair means. And so what that actually did when you find hidden things is it removes the option for those for other digits being in those cells. So what options did we remove? Well, they already couldn't be a 1 or a 2 or a 3, but we did remove the option for them to be 4. So what we want to do is we want to think about the effect on its row and its box on the fact that these can't be 4 anymore. And you can see in this box, well, where does 4 go now? Well, this 4 looks in. These aren't 4 because of the hidden 6, 7 pair, and the 1, 3 obviously aren't. So 4 ends up in one of these two cells, which does point. That 4 is going to point into this box. This 4 looks up. It places this 4. And now that 4 looks in. These 4s point in, and we end up with a 4 up here somewhere. Now, what did we just find here? Well, we found what we would have found if we looked at this row, which is that this is a 4, 6, 7 triple. We found a hidden triple. We found it via the corner marks, which is fine. But because we just haven't gotten around to looking at this row yet. But ultimately what we found is that 3 digits are overlapping in 3 cells. And so that is a hidden triple. And whenever you find something like that, you can convert your corner marks to center marks, and you end up with this nice clean 4, 6, 7 triple. Cool. And so that was the effect of the 4, but we removed other things. We removed a 5 as well. This 5 looks down, and so we end up with a 5 in one of these two cells. And look what just happened. We found a hidden 4, 5 pair in this box. Because the 4 and the 5 end up in these two cells. And you say, what about this 2? Well, that means the 2 can't actually be there, because it has to be 4 or 5. So we can remove the 2, we can place these as 4 or 5 center marks, we can clean up the corner marks if we want. And now there's only one place in this box that can be 2, so it must be. Because if you think about it, if we put 2 anywhere else, in this box, there would not be enough room for the 4 and the 5. So we can actually place the 2. When we do so, notice we got some red markings up here. If you don't have that turned on, you always want to be scanning the row, column, and box to see how placing that affected things, especially your existing markings. And you can see that that means this can no longer be 2. And so this is a naked 7. We use the word naked when you can just see from the center marks. You can see the list of candidates has been reduced to something, right? In this case, it's a naked single, so it's been reduced to a single digit. So this is a naked single 7. We can place it. Because if we don't put a 7 there, we won't be able to put anything there. So we better put the 7. Now that removes 2 and 7 from this cell, leaving a naked single 6. That removes the 6 and 7 from this cell, leaving a naked single 4. And now this is what we call a full house. You could call it a naked single or a hidden single. It's got a special name because it's the most trivial of deductions, which is that we have 8 of our 9 digits placed in this box. So this is the digit that hasn't been placed. It's the 2. Now placing this forward, we do look down and see that resolves this 4 and 5 as well. Now, we just placed a bunch of digits here. We placed the 2, 4, 6, 7. What we want to do is we want to double check that we don't have anything to do in the band now that we have this new information. Like, are there buddies for the 2, 4, 7, or 6? We already got the 6 marked. There's no buddy for the 2 or 7. Nothing else really got filled that's going to be helpful. I mean, these got filled, but this box is done, so it's not going to help us. And so there actually isn't more to do with that band, but we do want to double check. All right, we also got a bunch of digits here. So I think we should look for duplicates that were relevant. So for example, we do have 2 5s looking in here. This 5 looks up, so we can place this 5. We have all of our 2s. We basically know where the 4s are already. So 2, 4, 5, the 9s are all done. This 2 and 4, this 5 and 3. So yeah, okay. So nothing more to see in terms of buddies. But we did still have some filled box rows, but at this point, I mean, notice this box is down to 2 digits. This box is down to 2 digits because this 4, 6, 7 is basically known for the box. So we're just going to center mark those. We're going to skip ahead a little bit. There's no reason to do everything when we're so close to done with the band. So here we need a 1. We need a 1 and an 8. That is not resolved, but we can put the 1-8 pair there. Now, something to think about. It's up to you if you want to wait till you get to this stack. Personally, when I find a pair like this, I want to look for immediate consequences so I don't forget. So we know that this 1-8 pair is going to vertically affect the column. It's called a naked pair because this is down to 1-8 and this is down to 1-8. So we found the pair by just center marking these 2 cells. And so that's why it's called a naked pair, as opposed to the hidden pair, which had to do with corner marking in a box. You can also find hidden pairs in rows and columns by restricting in the same way, but we don't have a notation for that, so it's a little bit harder to see. But anyway, this is a... Excuse me. Oh my gosh. Sorry. A lot of talking in this one. Always a lot of talking. So this 1-8 pair is going to eliminate 1 and 8 from the rest of the column. Way to think about that is, how can this resolve? Well, it can only resolve in 2 ways. This is either going to be 1-8 like this, in this case, none of these are 1 or 8. Or it's going to be 8-1 like this, in which case still none of these are 1 or 8, right? The 1-8 are here, so they're not here. So hopefully one of those explanations sticks, which means we basically know that there's a 1 somewhere here. Does this 1 care where its buddy is? No, it doesn't really care. It's in one of these 2. And so the effect is still the same on this box, that 1 gets restricted here. And I'm going to mark that now to remind myself that I did have this 1-8 pair. There's no 8s to buddy up with, so I'm not going to do more with that yet because we haven't really done the stack. But we are still working on this band, so let's backtrack a little bit. This is also down to 1-8. So we end up with these 2 1-8 pairs remaining, the 6-7 pair remaining, and this 4-6-7 triple remaining. And there's nothing more we can do with this band. Things outside the band, the other bands are going to have to help. The stacks basically are going to have to help. So we're going to move on to this third band. Notice how much we've gotten just by scanning bands. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, but it's always the first thing to check for because it's great when you do find things. So this 4-6, we have the duplicate 4s. There's no 4s up here to help, so we'll just corner mark them down here. There is no duplicate 6. We've got the 2-4-9 versus this 3-5-7, so no duplicates there. Do we have any filled box rows? We do not. Do we have any rows or boxes down to 4 or fewer? We do not. So I don't believe there's anything else we can do with that. There is something I am seeing. This is something that I would look for in the hard at this point. It's not something I'd look for at this point in the medium, but I do want to point it out because it is neat. So just a little bit of an advanced thing here for you. We'll try not using it and we'll come back and use it at the appropriate time if we need to. I know that sounds weird, but I don't want you to think that something like this may have been necessary until we get to the point where it's something we would be looking for. It's something I do in the mediums. I know it's weird. If you see something, use it in your own solves. It's fine. But I don't want to jump ahead and do things not in the order that I'm proposing. But this is something you can be looking out for in your own solves if you feel like you have the headspace for it. I'm trying not to overwhelm, but this is really neat, and I want to show you how this works. So I call this geometry. I focused on this box, and I saw that this 3, 5, and 7. Notice how they're clustered in kind of this 2x2 area. They don't have to be clustered like that, but the important thing is to notice that there's a row and a column that they aren't in. You see how that works? There's a row and column they aren't in. So specifically, I looked at this row that they aren't in. So what do we know about this row? I'm going to make it purple. Well, we know the row needs a 3, 5, and 7 in it because it needs every digit. We also know they aren't going to go in this box. So by the way we found this, we've already reduced where the 3, 5, 7 can go to 6 cells in this row. That's already very powerful. I also noticed that there was a 2 and a 9 already in the row. First of all, the most important thing to notice is there isn't already a 3, 5, or 7. So we need to find out where they go. And I know that this 2 and 9 are not where they go. So we're down to 4 places. That is suspiciously close to the 3 places they need to be. And then I just scanned the columns, right? And I noticed, I see it's already green. I noticed that we had a 3, 5, 7 here. So actually this purple cell here cannot be 3, 5, or 7 for a completely unrelated reason, but it still works, which is that we have this 3, 5, 7 here. And notice this was available from the start of the puzzle. Some people actually look for this right at the start. It can be quite beneficial if you see it. It depends on your scanning method. I look for it as I go band by band. I look in each box for it. So what's the result? Well, these purple cells are the only cells in this row that can accept a 3, 5, or 7 at all. At all, right? This can't be 3, 5, 7. This can't be 3, 5, 7. This can't be, this can't be, this can't be, this can't be. None of them. If there was a stray cell here that could be a 3, but not a 5, 7, that wouldn't count. And what we found here is a hidden triple. Because there are only 3 cells in this row that can be 3, 5, 7, those 3 cells must be 3, 5, 7. And what we could do is center mark 3, 5, 7 here, and then also notice that this cell can't be 5 or 7, and place this 3, and end up with a 5, 7 pair here. Now, like I said, this is going to be painful, but I'm going to erase this. I'm going to undo because yes, it's really cool, but I don't recommend looking for this as a new solver until later. Like we want to focus on the low-hanging fruit first. But I did want to point it out because it is a really neat thing to find. But I would not expect a newer solver to see that. It is something that takes experience in scanning to look for. Feel free to look for it though. And so like I've been looking for it as we go, just because I habitually do. So like for example, this 2, 4, 9, I did look in this row. The 3, 5, 7, I also looked up here, right? You don't see it up there. So I only mention it when I find it, which makes it seem like magic. So it needs to be something that you're constantly vigilant in looking for if it's something you want to find early. And there's no good way to like really track it down otherwise, except just to be vigilant and look for it whenever you can. So anyway, we are going to be doing this band, but we're not going to be using that yet. If we do end up needing it, absolutely we'll use it. But it's kind of in our 3rd phase of scanning. It's our last resort in the medium solves. In the hard, I would absolutely be moving on and using that. We'd be done with the puzzle by now in hard. Anyway, so I hope it makes sense. I hope that's not frustrating for you. Anyway, anything else to do in this band? I don't think so, because we didn't notice this. Anyway, now we're going to do stacks. So we're going to do the exact same thing with stacks that we did with bands. If you think about it, just replace row with column, right? You can always just rotate a Sudoku grid 90 degrees. It's the same puzzle. You're just looking at it from another angle. And so the stacks work exactly the same as bands. And so we can do the exact same thing. So this is empty. So we just look for 3, 5, 7 here. We do have a 3 and a 5. So these 2 3s look up. We also have this 3 here, putting a 3 in one of these 2. Now don't get confused. These corner marks are overlapping, but not in a way that's useful. Not yet, at least, right? Because we've got them all spread out around the box. So don't think we found any kind of hidden pair there. We do have these 2 5s looking up as well. This 5 looks in. There's a 5 in one of these 2. All right, the 7 doesn't have a buddy. Any filled box columns? No. Any columns or boxes down to 4 or fewer? No. So we move on. This one's quite juicy. And in fact, this stack is at the point that I would personally just pencil all the columns. But, if we want to, we can just compare these two boxes, right? We already know everything about these boxes. So we compare these two. We know this box has every digit. So we just have to pay attention to the digits that are in this box that aren't in this box yet. So the 2 1s look down, putting a 1 in one of these two. Now this is something I want you to look for, if you can. I think it's worthwhile, because when you do a pencil mark, don't just do the pencil mark and immediately move on as if that did nothing. Pencil marks give you information, and you want to be looking to see how that information helps you. In this case, when you corner mark in 2 places in a box, you want to be, so I did that because of the stack. So you want to be looking in the band for a similar restriction in a adjacent box. Do you see what I'm seeing? The ones are restricted here, and in this box, the ones are restricted here. We actually placed that early, if you remember, from the 1-8 pair, and so this comes in handy now. If we hadn't placed it early, we would have done this when we did this stack. But we have these ones lining up. And this is an indication that we have found some either hidden single or claiming in a row. So what do I mean by that? Well, this box has ones, and this box has a 1, and this box has a 1. What can we say about it? Well, this box's 1 cannot be in row 8, and this box's 1 also cannot be in row 8. So there is a missing row among these 2 boxes that 1 cannot be in. So where is the 1 in that row? Well, it's in the box. It's in this 3rd box. And so the 1 ends up in one of these 3 cells. These happen to be occupied. But either way, the result, even if these weren't occupied, the result is we cannot put 1s here because the 1 is here, and it's called claiming. We're ignoring the 3-5 for now, so I can explain claiming, because this is a great way to find claiming. Claiming is one of the hardest things to spot in terms of Sudoku basic technique. So this really helps you spot it. And so in this row, the 1 is limited to this box, and so the 1 will be in this box in this row, which means it won't repeat in these rows. And you can see, and the result here is actually that the 1 is placed because it's a hidden single 1 for the row. Notice it is not a hidden single 1 in the box until we realize that the 1s end up like this. Some people would call this an X-wing. A true X-wing has to be in 4 boxes, not in 2 boxes. This is just this would be called a what's the word? I don't remember the word. I'm sorry. But basically the idea is that it can be described as a simpler technique, so we do not describe it as an X-wing. We instead describe it as a hidden single in the row. But feel free to call it an X-wing if you want. I'm not going to stop you. But this 1 does eliminate this 1 up here. We always want to be checking up on that, but there are still 2 places for 1, so we can't place it. We did get this 1, which is nice. And so now we want to make sure we follow up on anything we've already done. I don't think there is any follow-ups other than this getting filled with 1, 3, 5. So actually there are follow-ups. We want to look here because this is now a filled box row that we didn't have before. So we don't care about, actually we care about the 2, 4, and 9. That's nice. The 4 we already know where it is though. The 2 and 9, let's do the 2 first. This 2 looks down, it places the 2. And now the 9 looking in is placed here. Okay, very, very handy because now this is a triple left for the box. We know it involves a 4. It involves 4, 6, and 8. So we can put that 4, 6, 8 here, center marked. And that is a triple that's going to affect the rest of the row. So that actually does reduce this row to 4 digits remaining because the 4, 6, 8 are over here. Remember, this is a naked triple. So these cannot be 4, 6, 8. And so what can they be? Well, they can be 1. So let's think about it first. 1, 3, 5, and sorry, what did I miss? 1, 3, 5, and 7. So I'm seeing that this can only be 1, 3 because it sees a 5, 7. This sees 3, 5, and 7. So this is a naked 1 because it can't be any digit other than 1. So we can place the 1 there. That lets us place the 3. And notice how these 1s did resolve like an X-wing would, if you know what an X-wing is. But they resolved like this or like this. Those are the only options. And that did also inform us that these couldn't be 1s. Anyway, what are the remaining 2 digits? They are the 5 and the 7. We do not know the order, but we can put the 5, 7 pair there. Okay, so we're placing digits left and right here. This is down to 4, and this is down to 4. We could do the boxes, I guess. So this box is down to 2, 5, 6, 7. The 5 and the 6 looking in this 5, oh sorry, let's just do the 5s on their own. I was going to say it does make a hidden 5-6 pair here, but this 5 actually tells us the order. So the 5 can only go here, and then the 6 can only go here. That resolves our 7 and 6. Told you that we're going to need the stacks to resolve these. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. Now the 2 digits remaining here are the 7 and 8. This 8 tells us the order. That's 7, that's 8. Or we could use that 7. Or we could use the fact that these were full houses for the columns, but it's all the same result. Do whatever you see first. Whatever's easier for you. This is a pair and this is a pair. I'm going to just do those. We need a 2. So the 2 has to go here because there's no that 2 there. And the remaining digit, once I see it, it's a 9. And then these 2 digits are the 3, which goes here because of that 3. And we need a 8. Nice. So I would call this band basically done as well. We were doing stacks. Let's go back and do this stack. Let's follow up on it. We just got a bunch of digits. So we do have the 2 9s looking up along with this 9. Putting a 9 here. Still no like hidden thing to do, but you can notice that we're getting a lot of clustered corner marks that aren't here. So I'm really suspicious of these 2 cells, but we're going to keep scanning first. We do have the 2 2s looking up and this 2 looks in. So we do know that 2 is in one of these 2. So we did the 1 2. How about the 3? We have that marked. The 5 we have marked. So 1 2 3 5 7 and 9. Okay. 7 is not limited enough, but this triggers something, right? We have a ton of corner marks in this box, and this is none of them. So I'd like to just look at what this cell can be. So we're just going to see that it sees a 1, 2, 3. We can also look at our corner marks to reference. It could be a 4, so we're going to center mark 4 in it. It can't be 5 or 6, just based on our corner marks. It can't be 7 because of the row. It could be an 8, but it can't be 9. So this was down to just 4 8, which is quite convenient. In fact, I'm noticing this row is down to 4 digits now. So I don't know when that happened, but we'll take care of it now. So the digits that are remaining are 2 4 5 8. This cannot be 5 or 8. So this is down to 2 4. This can't be 5. So this is 2 4 8. And this can't be 2. So this is 4 5 8. So I don't think we get much out of this. Okay, one thing we do get out of this actually is this is a nice little pattern also that you can look out for, which is 3 of these are in the same box as each other, and then there's one straggler out here. And that straggler can't be every digit for the row. It can't be a 5, and it can't be an 8. So we want to scrutinize 5 and 8 in this row because they end up over here. And actually, if we do so, we notice that this is the only cell that can be 5 in the row. So we can place that as a hidden single 5. And then in addition to that, we see that the 8 is limited to these 2 in the row. And so those are going to be claiming 8s. I'm going to get rid of the greens here. 8 for this row is only in one of these 2, which means the 8 can't be in the rest of the box because the row's 8 will be here. So the box's 8 will also be there, meaning not up here. And so actually, since the 8s are all looking in like this, the 8 ends up here, not here because of this 8. All right, very, very handy there. We also got placed this 5. Those 5s look in. We also have this 5. So 5 ends up here. What does this trigger? We found a hidden pair. It's a hidden 5 8 pair. So we can convert those to center marks. But pay attention to your verticals. We have this, red marks don't give you everything, even if you have them on. We have this 1 8 pair here, which did remove 8 from this cell. Because if we try to put an 8 here, we won't be able to put an 8 in this box, and that's bad. So this is the 5 and this is the 8. That 5 resolves our 7 and 5. Alrighty. At this point, this puzzle is almost done. There are very few open cells and very few open cells that aren't marked. So my recommendation, if you get to that point and you really think that you're at that point, look for rows, columns, boxes that are down to the fewest digits and start with those. So for example, this is a full house. So let's just place this digit. This is a 7. What I mean is explicitly look for that kind of thing. This is also a full house here because we know the 1 8 end up here. So this is just whatever the last digit is for the column that we don't know about. I'm trying to think what it is. It's a 3. It's really hard to scan and talk at the same time. It's a skill I've gained over time, but it's still as difficult. I removed a corner mark 3 there. So now I know there's a lot of corner marks in here, but remember to look for it, right? We removed a 3, so there's only one place for 3. And when we do that, we're going to be removing a corner mark 1. And so now look for where corner mark 1s go in the box. They're only here. We remove a corner mark 9 when we do that. Now this is the only place for 9. That removes a corner mark 6, but there are 2 places left for 6. So we can't place it yet. This one also affects this 1 8 pair. It resolves the 1 8, resolves this 8 1. That 8 let's deal with the 4 first, right? This is an egg single 4, but it also displaced a corner mark 8, which now can only be here. That also resolves the rest of the row with the 2 there. This whole column is resolved. This is the 6 and the 7. This can't be a 7 anymore. This can't be 6 or 8. And so this ends up being a 4. That's an 8. We get the 6 and the 4. This is the only place for 6 in the box. This is the only place for 2 in the box. This is whatever's left for the box. Nope, it's not a 9. I misscanned. It's a 7. And then these two digits are 4 and 9. That's the 9. That's the 4. And we're done. Alrighty. So, I hope this was helpful. I know I went over a lot in this, and I do that in every medium. So the idea is if you missed some of it, that's perfectly fine. If you understood 50%, 30%, 20% of what I said, every time you watch these, you'll pick up on more. It'll become more natural to you. And as you try the puzzles yourself, maybe follow along, maybe try to do what you can, then watch what I did and see, oh, I missed that. I missed that as we went. Oh, okay, that's something I should be looking for. That can help reinforce things as well. So that would be my recommendation. If you're trying to get into solving these Sudokus as a habit, this is a really nice way to sustainably have the hobby. So I really hope this was enjoyable. Again, if you watch this and this was helpful to you, if you like this pacing, if you like this amount of explanation, I really want to hear from you. And just leave a comment below and let me know how you felt. And of course, let me know how you did as well.